we'll start off with the applicant, Mr. Dara.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss this with you. We're talking about the application for rezoning.
I must say to you all that we have sufficient documentation in front of us to make an informed decision. The 10 minutes you have is on top of the documentation that we have here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chair. As I said, we're talking about the rezoning for these two properties. Just to give you an idea of where the property is located, it's along the Villiers Avenue on the corner of Campground Road. You can see this is in close proximity to Durban Road leading into Main Road. In terms of the background, there was 35 objections received, 17 appeals. When you consider this appeal, all of the issues were addressed in detail in the sub-council, at sub-council meeting and the departmental report. If you look at the surrounding areas, there's numerous blocks of flats in the area, and this has shown the photographic examples of blocks of flats in the area. With regards to the issues raised in the appeals regarding the process followed, it should be noted that any block of flats on this property will have to comply with the GR2 rules and the conditions imposed by sub-council. The onerous conditions imposed were that there would only be 12 units on the property and 3 stories high. The building plans would have to be approved with the satisfaction of the planning commissioner with regards to the interaction with the street, and no trees shall be felled without approval from the city. In terms of the principle of the rezoning, this is supported by all council policies. It should also be noted that the property is not located within a heritage protection overlay zone. With regards to the issues of parking and traffic, the Transport Department has no objection to the application. The parking departure is seen as reasonable and has been discussed like that in the departmental report. It's for 30 bays in lieu of 36 bays for 18 units. The Transport Department is not concerned with the carriageway crossing or the S-bend or traffic-related issues. There was also conditions imposed to make sure that the traffic impact is mitigated in the area, and the proposed development is also compliant with the TOD strategy. With regards to the density and character of the area, the buildings on the site will only be 3 stories high, and there's also a condition imposed to that effect. The departmental report indicated that it's in keeping with the built character of the area. In terms of the densification, it's contextually appropriate. These large urban mitigate against any perceived significant density in the area. And the conditions imposed again would limit the build form, the height and the density of this development. With regards to the enforcement by the city of these conditions, the conditions were imposed as we said, and the conditions together with the DMS rules and the planning development rules will protect the existing rights and the surrounding property owners. It's not clear why the appellants require further input at this stage, as the properties is not within a heritage protection area and the city is well aware of their concerns throughout the LUMS process. With regards to the north common boundary setback for a future block on this property, the extent of the possible 0 meter setback is minor, as you can see there at the top. Given the 3-story restriction and the other conditions imposed by sub-council, there is no unreasonable impact on these properties. The property on that boundary is also abutted by outbuildings and a single dwelling, single-story house on the side. With regards to the trees and landscaping, the city condition again was imposed to protect the mature trees, and we cannot fell any trees without approval from the city. Conditions will ensure that the character of the area is maintained, and it's not an HPOZ again. To conclude, we agree with the recommendation in the departmental report and the sub-council's decision to approve this application. The proposal has been shown to be desirable and will have no impact on the existing rights as per the land use planning ordinance. The proposal will not impact negatively on the character of the area. The proposal complies with various council policies. The densification proposed is contextually appropriate. There's no negative impact on parking or traffic. It's efficient interaction with and engagement with the interested and affected parties was done. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Birch?
Firstly, the issue of whether it's a heritage preserve.
Your mic?
Firstly,
Can you press the button to get it, yeah, and then just mention your name. This is for recording purposes, please.
Simon Birch, RAMPAC is the organisation,
Thank
part
you.
of the RMCA. The issue of whether it's of heritage protection status, the application, and the applicant knows this, we have submitted applications for heritage protection status. This was done about 4 or 5 months ago. The documentation has been completed and accepted by City, and I think for all intents and purposes, Rosebank has to be treated, or should be treated as a heritage protection zone. It's quite clear. It's actually anomalous that this hasn't been done sooner. And it's also problematic that there has been no progress on the City side in the proclamation of this heritage zone. It does have a lot of character, and it is really the character of the area that we are concerned about maintaining, and specifically the way buildings interact with the street. If you notice on the examples of flat blocks in the area that the planners have just put up, you'll see that yes, there are blocks of flats in the area. There's no question about that. And this conforms with that precedent. We don't dispute that. But the one thing that you all note is that those things, and this is a key issue, is that all those blocks that were shown had ground level dwellings. They don't have what we have in this case, which is just a sea of parking. That's all that the applicants propose at ground level. You're on street level, all you see is cars. You see a parking lot with 2 levels of flat blocks on pilotis above that. This is like a desert. There's no character there. There's no interface with the street. That's the other thing that was mentioned. The interaction with the street was flagged as a concern. I don't see any evidence of this whatsoever. In fact, there's zero interaction with the street. It's a negative on the street from an aesthetic point of view, from a safety point of view. No living on street level means there's no surveillance. The street level becomes abandoned. It becomes derelict. It's an unsafe environment. It's not maintained. It's an appalling piece of planning. I don't know how it was allowed. What we did say is that we are more than amenable to rezoning under certain conditions. We even said that we are amenable to changes to setbacks, possibly more on the south side, on the street front side. We don't see a need for a large setback there. We're concerned more about setbacks on the north side, which overlook neighbours. So why there has been absolutely no cognizance taken of these concerns and the concessions that we're prepared to offer, I do not understand. And I think this is this is just terrible planning practice. And I think for the city to permit this in its present form is an abrogation of any of the tenets of good urban planning and design. Thank you.
Thank you. Is that the property on the screen there?
Yeah, sorry, maybe I should have clarified my concern. It's not to do with the extension of the existing block of, I think, 12 units, currently 12 to an additional number of units being put on there. It's where the garages are. It's a vacant site except for the garages, where the new 3 proposed 12 dwelling flat block unit is proposed.
Yeah, you made a case out for cars parking, and I've got the impression it's bumper to bumper. But on that picture there's one car there. 2.
Trying to orientate myself. Yes, okay. Yeah, so that's the existing flat block. We're concerned about this, what is currently just
Where the trees are.
where the trees are on the Campground Road corner.
Yeah. And the street there, the parking, the cars on the street parking.
Yeah.
Can't find them.
We're not concerned with the number of provisions of parking bays. It's adequate. That is
So you
not.
don't have a problem with it?
It's the form of the planning of the proposal is which is very bad.
I think your concern is also the aesthetic of the area.
I would like to say that, but
Yeah.
aesthetic seems like a dirty word in council's mind now. It seems like an
No,
elitist
you
thing.
can't think for us. We think for ourselves. I don't think
I'm very
that's
glad to hear
fair
that, sir.
comment.
I'm talking about the
aesthetic is very
planners.
important for some of us, and okay. Any questions to the gentleman? Yes, Councillor Boyd.
Thanks, Chair. It's just an issue of clarity. On your main complaint here is about the parking bays that are beneath the structure itself. I just want to understand it correctly.
Correct.
So, because you feel that it does not go with the ambience, if I may call it,
No.
of the community.
No.
So that's the point of conversation.
That is my point of
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Hendricks.
Mr. Chairman, if the parking bays does not add character to the neighborhood and integrates with the street, where must they then put these parking bays? If it can't be where they've planned it, there doesn't seem to be any other space. Because both parties seem to be quite happy with the development and increasing the densification. But now where must they put the parking bays? If obviously there is an alternative where they can place the parking bays, I'm sure that the members of the appeals committee will then
Thank you.
look at it.
Can I respond?
Yeah.
So that's why we suggested that they apply for departures for boundary setbacks. We have actually done schemes ourselves showing how parking could be reconfigured to permit, without any loss of parking bays, ground floor dwelling units. That's our key, ground floor dwelling units.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. The councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr.
Name.
Speaker,
Name.
Councillor P. Chapel. If you notice on the diagram, you'll see the stone pine down the bottom, and that is in fact located in Campground Road. The objection I had at sub-council, which still remains, is that entrance to this facility should be via and through that road rather than the S-bend which is on your left. I do believe having cars entering on that S-bend and what is a narrow residential road is far more problematic than having it along Campground Road. Secondly, Mr. Chair, I'm deeply concerned about the size of the proposed swimming pool. We are in Schedule 5 of water restrictions. There is currently in today's world and water, the new normal is big swimming pools are out. So I would say to developers, do not come to me with your body corporate when we look at your water bill. Do not come to me with your water bill. My suggestion is please remove the pool, move the entrance into Campground Road, and mitigate the effect, the traffic impact you're going to have. Mr. Speaker, the statement that this is on a transport corridor is simply not true. The nearest My City bus is in Salt River. Quite frankly, you'd have to walk from here through Mowbray, through Observatory to get to the nearest My City bus. The nearest Golden Arrow bus is straight along the S-bend for at least half a kilometre at Klipfontein Road. There's no buses go along there. There has never been a taxi scene in Campground Road unless late at night removing burglaries. So the idea that this property is located on a transport corridor and is therefore worthy of densification, quite frankly, is a spin. Nonetheless, the Civic has indicated they're happy with the densification proposed, but I think densification hiding under being close to a transport node and a transport corridor is simply not true. But I would like to appeal to the committee to look at the diagrams. I think a further condition should be added regarding the size of that swimming pool, especially in view of Cape Town's current situation, and on resiting the swimming pool should they need one. And I really think you can make that a third of what it used to be. You can have cars coming in via campground rather than what I consider a very dangerous S-bend on the left-hand side. Thank you for your time, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Thank you for your input here this morning. We will make a decision after you've left, and you will be informed, Neil, within 10 working days what the situation is. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're welcome.